Hello, everybody. This week we're going to talk about Chapter 14, Collaboration. So, just some overall topics as far as collaboration that we're going to look at: logistical organization, development of collaborative relationships, and relationship management. So, really, when you're looking at your supply chain, when you're looking at your logistics partners, you really want to look at these as partners. You don't want to look at them as an adversarial relationship. And to do that, you really need to actively manage your relationship. So we'll talk about that a little more as we work through the material in this lecture. So when we look at the development of management of internal logistics relationships, we want to understand, what is the functional aggregation of this? When we look at all points of the process that touch logistics and the logistics touch, are we aggregating the needs? Are we aggregating the specifications? Are we aggregating how we serve the organization? Are we making sure that we are shifting from simply a function to a process to really bring value to the organization? And are we able to lead change within our organization? Are we able to drive meaningful change, be efficient, but also be effective and really bring value for the organization? Uh, so when we look at the functional aggregation, it's the combination of the logistics function into a single managerial group. It's motivated by the belief that grouping the logistics into a single organization increases the likelihood of integration. It improves the knowledge of how operational change impacts performance, and it just elevates the entire organization. Comprehensive uh, aggregation in organizations is very, very rare, but there is a trend towards strategic management of all forms of inventory, movement, and storage. And really, this is going to bring a maximum benefit for the enterprise. And we really want to work to make sure that we're developing a logistics information system that's enabled the integration of our organization. This can often be achieved through um, bolt-on modules to our ERP system or an ERP system that encompasses our logistics platform. Logistics, much like procurement and supply chain, is often a forgotten about or a simplified business discipline. Procurement is just the people that go out and buy things. Logistics are just the people that ship things. Whereas, much more goes on in logistics and supply chain and procurement than just a simplified view that the organization has. And it's really the view of the logistics professional, of the supply chain professional, the procurement professional, really to educate the organization on exactly what we do, how we bring value. And really, I think that's kind of the next phase of bringing any of the supply chain professions, be it order management, be it logistics, be it procurement, to that next level to really increase our relevance in the enterprise. So we want to look at, really, if you look in your text, figure 14.2 is a really great illustration of the aspects of a functional integration. So when we look at this and we consider purchasing, manufacturing, support, customer relationship management, are separate line operations. And there's 5 capabilities under logistical support, and they are positioned as shared services. The logistical resource planning embraces the full potential of management information, really striving to plan and coordinate all of our operations to really allow logistics to truly be a benefit, truly be a source of support, source of action, source of positive change for the organization. And overall planning and control are existing at the highest level within the organization, and really they're one of their main points of existence, or one of their main points of interjection in this process is to facilitate integration. Um, so when we look at from function to process, we want to understand the organizational structure. What are the barriers to process integration? How is the organization structured, and does it allow for an ease of integration? Does it allow for the logistics function, the logistics organization to truly integrate in all levels and all areas to really drive excellence on anything that needs logistical support? Um, and this is everything from new product development to shipping out to the customers. So just something to consider when it comes to how we integrate. So some of the factors that enable the process structure are the development of a highly involved work environment with self-directed teams. You really want to be able to empower your professionals to go out to internally network with other professionals to know the ins and outs of not just your department, but all the other departments and understand when is the right place, when is the right time for logistics to interject themselves, to get involved, and really to try to bring value through consultations. Um, how can we improve productivity? We can often find results within our organizations at the onset of managing the processes rather than managing the function. Um, and then the ability to rapidly share accurate information. So I think that's one key benefit that the niche segments of the business, procurement, logistics, finance, marketing. We all have our area of expertise, and you could say we are a center of excellence within the organization. And logistics really brings information that the rest of the business does not have um, access to, that they do not understand, that they cannot articulate how this information, why this information is important. So when we look at the challenges of managing from a process perspective, all effort must be focused on the value add to the customer. Logistics, just like procurement, just like supply chain, we exist purely to support the organization. So the customer may be that external customer that buys our product, but they may be our internal customer that needs our service. Um, all of our skills are necessary to complete the work and must be available to the process owner. So critical skills that are not shared can disrupt the workflow and they can create bottlenecks. And when you're working in any of the operational functions, supply chain, procurement, logistics, you do not want to be the bottleneck. You do not want to be the constraint. So make sure that we're sharing all of our skills so that we are not a bottleneck or a constraint to the organization. And work performed by these processes should stimulate a synergism, a synergy within the organization. Really, our action should serve as a positive domino effect to make other things happen and really drive excellence. So, moving from function to process and being integrated into the business is a great idea. It can be difficult. Budgets are needed, resources are needed, both financial and human hours. Um, there is going to be some painful changes. So, I mean, really, you got to look at what is the best way to integrate the change, what is the best way to get the team on board, and often that is to drive the change, drive the implementation from the ground up. Leadership can float the idea, but leadership cannot do everything that comes to it. So leadership must involve those that actually use the process from the beginning. So, we start to look at I mentioned virtual organizations. They're going to provide a great opportunity for integrated performance. But this isn't going to be necessarily on the org chart. So how can an organization be structured so that it can manage a complex global logistics process without being too bureaucratic? And this is where cross-functional teams come in. This is where the concept of agile project management comes in. And agile project management is going to allow you to focus on the workflow, on the process, on the project, getting it done rather than necessarily the traditional organizational structure. It's going to link remote teams of subject matter experts or remote individuals that need to be there for a certain part of the project, a certain period of time. You're going to link together through the project. You may bring someone in for 1 week and then their contribution is done and then they're excused from the team. Really, you're being agile you're being as minimally intrusive to the organization as you can. And through this, you're actually able to move things forward a lot faster by almost making one large project a significant amount of micro projects that are done in short bursts. And in this, you want one thing to remember is you're actually able to push the authority down to the teams. Um, so when I talked about it a little bit earlier, when you make the change, it cannot all be done at the highest level and forced down through the organization. So when you look at leading organizational change, strategic change is going to involve any implementation of a new, improved way to serve customers. You have to share the benefit. You have to share why is this beneficial to the organization, but also why is this beneficial to the individual, because it is going to be a significant modification to the firm. How we are organized, how we operate, what our structure looks like, and if you're changing the day-to-day jobs of many of these people, there could be fear, there could be apprehension, and you have to realize that when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to provide shelter and food, that is coming from someone's paycheck. That is coming from someone's work. That is why they work. Is the hierarchy of needs and providing those needs for their family. So you want to make sure that you are communicating upfront and honestly how any adjustments in the organization are going to still protect the right to earn, the ability to earn, the need to earn. There could be changes in the human resource organization. There could be changes in departments. There could be layoffs. I mean, these are just significant things you must consider when you're looking at leading organizational change. Uh, you need to make sure that the organization does not see this as a quick fix mentality. They want to know that this is a long-term sustainable change, that there's going to be some stability in this, and it is really in their best interest as well as the company's best interest. And you also want to consider what's the organization's capacity to absorb the new practices. Can they absorb any constraints, any bottlenecks? Can they absorb any short-term financial ramifications because of this? And understand that actual change does take longer than anticipated usually. Most of these big, wide scoping changes to an organization, they say, oh, well, this project's going to take 12 months, and here we are 24 months later, and it's still going on. So um, this is really a case where you want to under promise and over deliver. So, moving on, a little bit different topic, but when we start looking at collaborating externally and the management of your supply chain relationships, you must consider the dynamics of risk, power, and leadership within these relationships. Understand the range that the extended supply chain relationships hit. Are you going to actively manage your tier one suppliers? Are you going to try to actively manage your tier two, which is your tier one suppliers? How integrated are you going to be in your supply chain? I think a lot of this also involves with how mature your supply chain is and how mature your suppliers are. If you are in a very mature supply chain and you have well-rounded, matured suppliers, then maybe you don't need to manage their suppliers. But if you do have suppliers that have struggled on their performance matrix, if you do have some logistics partners that maybe are new in certain markets, new in certain methods, then maybe you do need to support them by managing their tier two. Ideally, you don't want to manage their tier two any longer than you have to. By doing such, you can erode the relationship. You can make it appear as you do not trust them. You can make it feel that they can be replaceable because you do most of their work. So, supply chain, in the supply chain, it's all about relationships, and the perspective of the supply chain is going to place more emphasis on those external relationships because when you are logistics and you're dealing with suppliers, you are the face of your company. Um, and oftentimes these could be multi-enterprise coordinated efforts that are focusing on efficiency improvement, driving positive change. And we must always carry a belief that cooperative behavior can reduce the risk and greatly improve our efficiency, and that also the opportunity always exists to eliminate waste and work effort. So by having a positive, transparent relationship with your supplier, you can encourage them that when they see waste, when they see duplication of work, that they can bring those ideas to you, that together you can reduce all those excess expenditures, excess labor, and that they want to bring you those opportunities to reduce your cost. So, um, yeah, so I guess when we look at collaboration and supply chain, I think the biggest thing is when you're collaborating internally, you always want to make sure that you understand what your internal customer needs. You need to understand how you as a function, so in this case logistics, how you as a function in the past have contributed or constrained their success. Learn from the past and understand how in the future you can support their attainment of their goals, how you can prevent yourself from being a bottleneck in their processes, and really understand from the servant's mindset of in the logistics function or procurement or supply chain, really any of the operational functions within the business, you are a service provider to the other parts of the business. So understand their needs, understand their goals, and how you can help support them reach their goals. When you look at collaborating externally, you have to consider what does the supplier do for me? What do I do for the supplier? And how can we harmonize and find a balance that I can be transparent with my supplier without giving up too much information, without mitigating any of my negotiation authority? Um, what's the right amount to ask from them to foster the relationship but not exploit the relationship? Um, and what is the right amount of efficiencies, cost savings, lower prices to negotiate from the supplier without making them financially non-viable for sustainability of their business? You never want to beat a supplier up over price, and that includes your logistics suppliers. Because if you ever get to the point where you're beating the supplier up, the supplier's doing business at margins that they cannot be profitable at, you'll find out sooner or later that the supplier is either going to go out of business or they're going to cut you as a customer. Um, so you want to make sure that you're doing right by your supplier, allowing them to make a profit. And as I always tell my suppliers, I want you to make a profit. I want you to stay in business as long as you can. Yeah, I really do want you to be profitable, just not too profitable on my account. So that's kind of a short lecture on chapter 14. Any questions, please let me know. This is week 7, so we are working on the Westminster case study project. A few of you have reached out to me. Continue to reach out to you if you need support. Work together with your colleagues, your teammates, and best of luck this week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.